Okay, you know that saying, in a world where you could be Lilith or Eve, always be Lilith, never Eve? Okay, stop. 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 Okay. I want to change the narrative. Okay, now look, we take from so many sources when we learn about these figures, okay, of mythology. Eve being the only source for her really is being the Bible, okay? But then Lilith's got so many. I mean, we could say it's been speculated, okay, never actually sourced, that Lilith was from the Sumer and Babylonian myth, although people have speculated that she was the Lilithu, okay, the spirit of night, okay? We don't know if they're the same figure, all right? Then we had the Ben Sira, who demonized her and made her the first wife of Adam, although there's no sources for that as either. But we kind of plug all of these what could have been into a pile and make this kind of personal narrative with us in terms of spirituality, in terms of devotion, and if we choose to work with her in terms of a deity or an archetype. We can plug all of the myths in, right? That's fine. But it seems like for working against the patriarchy, for feminine wisdom and power, for autonomy, okay? So many things you can work with Lilith for, okay? And are great, okay? I've done the same thing, right? Working with Lilith in deified and spiritual ways to unlock certain things within myself, all right? Fantastic. But how come we couldn't do that with Eve as well? To get more compassion, more sensitivity, temptation, eating from the apple, getting tempted by the serpent, all of that. If you think about it and break it down, because the creation story is one of my favorites, okay, of mythology, all right? When I break it down, I find so much nuance within Eve that I actually love, right? And I think of her as this submissive, but she has this kind of quiet retribution about her, right? Not as heavily and boisterous and confident as Lilith, but she has this kind of roiling confidence about her, right? She wants what she wants. She went after it. She didn't let the thought of temptation and fear overtake to where she couldn't. And it's even said that it was laid out that they both, Adam and Eve, knew that this tree of knowledge was bad, okay, and don't eat from it. And if Eve successfully gets tempted by the serpent, then that's bad, right? Okay. But this is to demonize temptation, which is the original sin. In my head, this is just Eve standing up for what she wants in a sense, okay, in a very broad sense. And we later in another story that's not in the Bible, okay, another source, we're sourced with a story that Eve gets impregnated with Cain by the serpent, who was really Lilith. Okay, Lilith in her vengeance stage from getting exiled and stuff, all right? Now, I've written quite a few poems to Lilith in my Immaculate Immortality book. It's out now on Amazon. Dictating her as a vampiress, as a demoness, as a satirical succubus. I mean, there's all kinds of epithets that I've named on her. But I completely immersed myself in her and was learning so much about Eve that it started to sound like a Medusa Athena thing. Two sides of the same coin kind of a thing. Where Athena had this shadow revolving around sexuality and confidence and what needs to happen when, and like, my temple is sacred and we can't do these kinds of things. So that it wants to demonize sex. It wants to demonize things that come naturally to us. These myths seem to try to drive a morality compass narrative, okay, that doesn't necessarily make the mark anymore, okay, in today's world, in today's society. But it started to sound like Eve and Lilith were like two sides of the same coin. But then I thought about that serpent, Lilith coming and finding Eve in the garden, okay? Lilith went out of her way all right? Because if I had been exiled from somewhere, as beautiful as the garden was and as paradise inducing temptation of being in the garden was, and getting kicked out of somewhere like that, it speaks to all of the sins at once. Okay, envious of Adam and Eve getting to stay there, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of retribution and vengeance would be in Lilith's soul, but at some level you're thinking, let me go and, carve out my own damn story here, like she tells the angels. Like, look, if you let me be, all right, if you guys, in another source, we see Lilith talking to the three angels that have to go get her and bring her back for punishment or whatever. She makes a deal with them, okay? There's so many nuance narratives and things that we can plug from to get each one of the figures' personality. So I've been working with both, but I kind of took it a step further, and I want to talk to you about that, okay? Because as you know from the title, this isn't just story time. I also made a deck. I went down a devotional rabbit hole of this dualistic figure of Lilith and Eve, and I kind of made this a love story, a love affair, if you will, okay? And I've called this Lilith affair. I've called this love affair an Eden kiss, all right? Now, it just came today, so I'm super, super excited to show it to you guys. Oh my God. Look at this. This is the box. It's still in a shrink wrap, but here's an Eden kiss. This is a digital collage deck that I made in devotion. This is a ritual deck that I will be using for ritual and devotion and worship in my deity practice with Lilith and Eve. So here's an Eden kiss. This is the box. It says an Eden kiss, a ritual deck, and then it says Lilith loved her heavenly eyes. Can you all read that, or is it backwards? I don't know. Eve loved her devilish smile. Okay, so I want y'all to know that an Eden kiss is a devotional deck, my own made up secret love affair between Lilith and Eve. Okay, and I wrote a little story, like a little synopsis into the story, like if it were a book, the inside of the little white or the little red, because it's a little red book for this. The little red book goes a little bit into the beginning of their story. And each of the 72 cards in this deck plays out a scene of a night that they would have like ran away from the garden and immersed themselves into the world of Earth, this planet of Earth, and immerse themselves into the current society, the current culture, have some little, have some fun, revel a little bit, dream a little bit, make up their own destinies. And it's just like this. Now, the way I portrayed this is, for me, I'm thinking of this, again, like Medusa, Athena, they're best friends, lovers. This could be a sapphic romance, if you wanted to go that far. But if you didn't want to go all the way to sapphic, because some people can't just wrap their head around these kinds of myths doing this, then you could just think of it as Lilith is so in love with Eve that this could just be kind of like a friendship, a really, really deep friendship, like between Anne and Diana. Kindred spirits, okay? They are kindred spirits, whether they're sapphic or not, okay? But for me, this is very much a sapphic retelling of Eve and Lilith. And I'm going to unbox it, and we're going to do a walkthrough with the stories of the cards in just a minute. But I just wanted to show off this box. I mean, I love it so much. There's Eve, and there's Lilith with her little horns there. I love these images. I've used a lot of these images so much. I'll read the back of the box for you when I unbox it, because I want to unbox it face down to really show y'all the details, and take this plastic wrap off so y'all can see it without the glare. But anyway, so there was my little story time. Learning a lot about Lilith has opened up a lot more about Eve, and the devotional work with Lilith that I've been doing lately has been really eye-opening, but nothing so far has made me feel good. As good. Like, I could be over at sacred. Like, I got a candle burning for Lilith right now in my sacred space with a crystal grid and some stuff that I've made over there for her. And I'm like, I had a devotional going for her, but the devotional act of making this deck, kind of telling my own imaginative story of this love affair between Eve and Lilith, feels so good. It does. It feels so good. And I mean, I'm going to put this up on my Make Playing Cards page, but just to know, I mean, like, this is a devotional deck. It's someone who wants to work with the divine feminine in these ways, in this very red velvet, you know, lots of fur, lots of like ambient lighting, right? And the peace of midnight, you know, like, if you're immersed in any of that, if any of that is your aesthetic, then you will like this as an altar tool, as a ritual tool, as a devotional tool, to just be with them for a little while, be with their energies for a little while. So anyway, so let's turn the camera around and we'll do, but you know, like, buckle in, okay? Because I might want to ramble about some of these cards because I love them so much. Loved how they turned out. So if you don't want my individual stories with the cards, then just silence me and just kind of look as I flip through. But just to know, this might be a long one. This might be one that I would like really ramble about the cards and what I see. But I don't know. We'll see you on the flip side. All right. Well, here's the box. I took the shrink wrap off. It's a matte finish. Lilith loved her heavenly eyes. Eve loved her devilish smile. I love that. Here's a close-up of the girls. Okay, and then here's the backs. I've got some apple seeds and pomegranate seeds because both play a huge symbolic role in the deck. Because I associate both apples with both of the figures, but for the purpose of this love affair, I associated pomegranates with Lilith because that's one of my sacred symbols for my dark feminine practice, and apples with Eve. So let me read you this. It says, this art deck tells the haunting tale of secret love between Lilith and Eve, two ethereal figures intertwined by fate. Under the velvety cloak of midnight, they rendezvous beneath the flickering glow of streetlights, casting long shadows on the cobblestone streets. In the hidden back alleys where whispers of forgotten dreams linger, their paths cross, filled with silent longing. Amidst the tangled roots of dark forest, where moonlight barely graces the ground, they find solace in each other's presence. So you see, like, you could take this and run with it however your imagination wants to, but I get a little bit more into it in the book, and I will show the book to you. I'm not going to read the book to you, read the description of the book, because I don't necessarily, let me get the cards out of the way. I don't necessarily want to give, you know, the spoilers, but this is a short book, okay? This is just like the 8-sided one, because I did the description here, the little description of their love affair here. And then how to use the deck, like how to use, just because it's not an oracle deck, I wanted to explain how I have used the deck and some ideas like that you could use the deck. So there's that. And then I've got an apple tree spread and a Paradise Reimagined spread. And then a fabulous quote here by Elizabeth Barrett Browning about the Garden of Eden. So there's a little short book, but you get a lot of information in just these couple of pages, plus the 2 spreads that I came up with. So there's a little book. Now, because I have multiple decks on Make Playing Cards out, just an info blast here. This deck will not come without the box. Okay, now I know a couple of my other decks come just like shrink wrapped, and I do have an option for my Thoth Oracle where you could have a box or not have a box. This one will come with a box no matter what. I will not offer this without the box because of the story on the box and because of the book it comes with. I want everyone who gets the deck to have access to my theories on the love affair. But for now, the vision of the deck is with a box and with the stories included. So I know that makes the price a little bit higher, but it's an indie deck and I worked really hard on it. I've worked on this for months. So to me, it's worth telling their story, okay? Here's the backs. Looks just like the box, just a little darker. This red and black brush strokes, if you will, I guess. All right, now this is a thick, now this comes superior smooth. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This comes standard smooth, not the superior smooth. Because of the amount of cards, it would have just made it like really too thick for me, and I am really rough on my cards. When I shuffle, I'm a bridge shuffler, and I overhand pretty hardcore. So if I were to get any of the other options for cardstock on Make Plain cards, they would be ripping and tearing and stuff. So I like to go superior smooth. Now, they don't always hold up in terms of like scratches, like if you have like a bare table like this. But again, I'm rough with my decks, and I like it that way. So that's the option for the cardstock. Okay, so, and again, it's 72 cards. Because 9 is my number for the feminine. So, all right, we're gonna start off with this. I'm gonna zoom in just a tiny bit. Okay, just so y'all can get a little bit more details. And so for this one, Lilith's got her horns and she's holding a poppy. Again, some flowers I've designated sacred to the couple. We've got candles. This card's about the door that you see here. I added the door here. And then when I juxtaposed them in front, there was something else here. And I thought, no, this is about the door. And they're like kissing. They're getting separated somehow. Or possibly they've just come through this door and this is the beginning of their journey. Right? And they've lit the candles. Every night, or I guess you could say every moment that we'll see, the 72 moments that we'll see in this deck, feel very ritualistic. They've romanticized their affair, okay? They're literally carving their own destinies. And for me, I think that that's admirable. Ooh, this cardstock's actually really good. And I want to edge mine in red, blood red. All right, now, as you can see, I've used statues, just for another info dump. I've used statues, real life images, art, paintings like figures from art, and I guess you would call them steles or stone tablets for the, I want them to feel like an ancient couple, like a couple that still could have been a couple back when these stories were told, okay? Again, like I said, very sapphic. So I used, of course, I had to include the Queen of the Night, okay? And this very, I want to call her Kali, but she's not. She's from the Indian stone murals. I put an apple in her hand and some pomegranates in the Queen of the Nights here, the Bernie relief. Had to add that. And I love the rivers. Rivers also play a role. I'm just going to say this. I know that this might be too graphic for some people, but rivers are also sacred, storms and rivers, because as a sapphic romance, slick, wet, running rivers are our theme. Okay, if you know, you know. So rivers are sacred to this love affair as well. This one was really, oh my God, I loved this one so much. Now these candles, I've made some wax pouring down on them, like we're immortalizing them in wax. But Eve here, and you really can't tell, but Eve here has gotten attacked. They're getting attacked. I wrote a poem for this one. It was like blood of my blood, slick with blood or something like that. And then that's why I put this little blood handprint here, because there's like, they're healing each other. This is about healing. This is about crimes of passion. And they did not hurt each other in this image, okay? But they are curing and healing themselves with their love. So yeah. In a church. Church also plays I've got quite a few cathedrals. I use cathedral imagery for a lot of this. Okay, now we have one of our first urban images, and we have this figure here looking up to this figure that's coming down, right? So they could be either or. Now for me, this person coming down to meet this person, it feels like this one can fly. So that makes me think Lilith. Lilith is getting summoned down to this alleyway here. You see all these dumpsters, and Eve here has put candles and flowers out, and she's kind of ritualized the back alley. And this is like urban magic. This is an urban ritual. This is an urban summoning. And I don't know, the back alley, the walls of the back alley are going to see some things. Okay, and we're going to see quite a lot of urban imagery. Okay, now we have Eve and Lilith. This one I am calling synchronized blood. Okay, so basically, again, if you know, you know, their menses have synchronized here. Okay, and they are basking in the glory of that. That's all I'm going to say about that. I love this velvet chair that Lilith is sitting on. And their expressions too. Eve looks completely discontent here. All right. And so does this one, this anatomical figure. But I don't know. It's just a relationship. So they're not always going to be ecstatic, you know, and plus they're menstruating. So, you know, there's that. All right, now we have forest dancing. This is forest revelry in a total sense, okay? I love this tambourine here with this figure and these forest horns, like the deer horns with Lilith here, and the apples they're holding. So they're like, I just can imagine them in this dark forest. It's evening, twilight, and they are literally dancing to a tune that only they can hear. A tune of the forest that only these figures could conjure up. It's like their own heartbeats, and they decided to dance with their own heartbeats as the drum beat. They're eating apples, they're dancing, there's music playing. It's just a fun time between the two of them. Now see, this one's more quiet, right? They're in an orchard. I love the teal background of this night scene here, but this person's got an apple. Eve's got an apple. Sorry, Eve. I need to say person. Eve's got an apple here, and they're like languidly lounging. Okay, but Lilith has a little rosebud. Let me see if I can show y'all. Lilith has a rosebud, and we don't know if they're offering it to each other or if these were gifts to each other, but they're just really lazily lounging in the orchard, possibly reminiscing about the garden. So, I love that one. Now, I use these fluorescent lights because in some of these images, I want to show that they are alive now. That even Liliths are still alive, and they have a resounding presence even in urban spaces. They're not locked down to the garden spaces. They're in every space that you could think of. And I really wanted to show that they, as ancient as they are, they can be as immersed in modernity as possible. So, and I love that Lilith is looking at Eve, and Eve's wrapped in this pink snake, but she's smelling the apple, right? And this card's really about stop and smell the apples, you know? But the love that Lilith is looking at her with, I just love that this played out like this. And then this building here in front, like, where are they? Like, where are you? We're hiding. Looks like they hide a lot. Again, some sacred statues. Okay, I like this teardrop here because it signifies the I don't know, the wanton, they don't want to be separated from each other, right? But her jewel tone tears have made a gorgon, okay, which goes back to the Medusa thing that I was talking about in the intro to this. But I like the thought of turning the serpent around and making herself a gorgon. I love this. This is walking in the meadow, walking in the hallways of meadows. And I love this snake here, how you can fix the colors to match what you want. They're just frolicking. I love this hallway. This golly, it's cloister, probably a cathedral cloister. All right, now we are in a roadside motel. All right, and they are dreaming together, and they're telling each other their dreams. And I loved this image of the motel, and then the amulet here. One of them's wearing an amulet, and the other one's holding poppies. They're dreaming of a paradise where their footsteps will grow the poppies. For sure. But I love how she's kind of like falling on her, you know, like they're tumbling together in this roadside motel bed. All right, this one's very ancient. Okay, now with this, I've put these two stone tablets together, and this one is weaving, and this one is playing a flute or whatever instrument that is. I can't remember. And they're conjuring the cobra here, and they're conjuring the wine, right? So it's a ritual again, and with this very blue urban hospital, I don't know, creepy horror movie background. I love that they've just kind of decided, you know what, I'm not going to let fear overtake me. We have a ritual for this. We can, as long as we're together and we're working towards something, we can get it done. So it's like they're drinking wine and conjuring the cobra to protect them. Something about sacred talismans and stuff. Actually, sacred amulets, really. And, I don't know, to harbor them against the fear. But I love how ancient this card looks, but also modern. All right, now this one's funny. Okay, this one's funny. Because I've added some tattoo art to a couple of the figures, as we'll see when we get there. But they're in a spiral staircase, and they're just kind of playing around with each other, which you see a lot. I want them to be playful with each other, not always too serious. So they're playing, and they're like trying to fall, you know, like walk down this spiral staircase, and they're laughing. And, you know, of course, Eve's got her snake, and she's holding a pomegranate, and it's like Lilith is like trying to grab it, but it's pouring out, so they're getting juice everywhere. Anyway, it's just funny. So with Lilith, I added, instead of horns, I added these like tattoos, like these badass bad girl tattoos. But this one is a heart, and it says Eve. I loved that. I like had to really get that right, but it does look like she's got a tattoo there, and it says Eve, so I love that. Again, we have another urban. This is like a parking garage, but I've got the mountains here because we're trekking the mountains to trade. So Lilith is giving Eve a pomegranate, and Eve is giving Lilith an apple. Just works out. They've met in this dark parking garage to trade. I don't know, and they've gone over mountains to see each other. I love that. Like they will go to the ends of the earth to find each other. This one was really special to me because I called this one, I think, Wet Hearts Are Bound, or something along those lines. Pause, I'm gonna get my laptop out so I can actually see what I was calling these cards. Yeah, I think I named this one something along the lines of Wet is the bound heart. Hang on, let me think. Wet is the bound heart, quaking in red threads, together forever in delicate, glistening webs. Something like that. Came up with some poems for a lot of these. But this looks so good. They're bound by their heartstrings, you know, and then, of course, the wet river. And their positions. Oh, I just love it so much. So there's that. Now this one's about the climb, okay? And the figures here are a little smaller than we normally see, but we've got one down here. They're both lounging in this very ruined like temple. Got a snake lounging here. And then we've got a figure up here lounging, but then way up here we've got the apple. Right? And then the stairs going up. And it's just about this quiet climb that they have to get to find an apple. And just loved it. I loved how I could make the staircase look like it was part of these ruins. And then add this pillar here with the snake, because of course the snake's sacred to the tail. But we're gonna pluck the fruit of ages here. All right, now these are just busts because they're immortal. These are their immortal souls. I kind of think of these busts here as their canoptic jars. So like they're holding their immortal souls here, and they're side by side. They're stone relics. They're standing initiations into the window of Eden. I love this. These candles. This double exposed candles here with the fairy lights. That's very ritualized, but they're side by side, and they are immortal souls together forever. This one is crying into the flame. We're gonna cry into the flames, and they're in a tunnel. And I missed you in the tunnels where tears mixed with flowing waters. I really actually like that some of them are just heads and some of them are figures, like figures. I like that we're seeing them close up and we're seeing them far away and we're seeing them in all kinds of positions, and it really does feel like we're capturing a moment between the two of them. Now this one's very dark academia because we're learning their myths. We learned each other in the dark library. That's what I called this one. And how you can't really see, but this one's like that dark angel statue, but then this reveled, very open and confident stone tablet here, but they're in a dark academia kind of setting, and they're learning each other in the dark library. They're reading each other's myths. I mean, how profound is that? Jeez. Now here we have another urban setting, and they're in another kind of a back alley. We got some candles and a can of spray paint, but then we have this dead snake here, because for me, the dead snake spoke, and we sprayed marks onto the brick walls. And if you can't, we found a dead snake in the alleyway, and it called to us and it spoke to us, and we took some spray paint and graffitied the walls. And if you see, we got an E+L here that they've written on the walls. Like, again, immortalizing themselves with the dead snake that they found. This one is encapsulated with each other's vanities. I mean, I don't know, Marie Antoinette. How Sofia Coppola, is this. I love that she's holding an apple, she's holding a rose, rose petals are falling. Very operatic. They have hidden in the opera house. All right, now we have Eve reaching for the forbidden fruit, okay? And this apple tree is growing inside of this cathedral, and one of the windows has been busted out, and there's an apple tree that has some of the branches have come in through the window, and no one has ever fixed it. And so in the seasons, in the autumn season, when the apples are ripe, they fill the sanctuary with apple scented goodness. Anyway, so they're in this like ruined cathedral eating the apples, and I love how Lilith is looking at her, or how I made it look like they're looking at each other. All right, now we're at the circus. Okay, we're tethered together, twins of the circus. So again, this is like we've gone kind of undercover at the circus, but we end up being the twins. We end up being twins, and we end up being a twin act, and we're going to be always tethered to one another. And I love like this tattoo. One's got a tattoo of a snake, and one's got a tattoo of a bitten apple. So they're very fun figures in this one. We see a lot of festivity, though, to be honest. both of them love to play, and they love festivals, and they love carnivals and circuses and stuff like that. So we see a lot of the play, but we see a lot of the ancient. We see a lot of the serious and the raw, and the incantation and ritualized nature of their affair. So we see a lot happening in the cards. All right, now I called this one Until We Are Skeletons. Don't you just love this? How this one's a deer skull and this one's a snake skeleton? Oh, just love these statues so much. I love statues that have fabric on them. The way that they've been chiseled. I just love that. Love her wings too. Until We Are Skeletons. Now this one was fun, okay, because again, we've ritualized it. There's revelry here. So this is revelry. But they're at somewhere at night and they're having a lot of fun, okay? But they're hanging out of these windows and they're unleashing their revelry, right? So here the snake comes, the snakes are there, and they're playing with the snakes, and they're just like laughing and giggling and having a fun time hanging out these windows. It's kind of like when you see someone hanging out of a sunroof of a car, you know, this very Vegas-esque night out kind of a thing. That's what's happening here. And I wanted them to really look like they were like coming out of these windows and like yelling at the people down below. I love figures that look like they're just laying there and they're like all lazy and stuff, and I just love that. I just love the look of that. So now here we have some like ram horns for Lilith, and she's offering Eve an apple, and we've got the serpent here, but we've got these like waves, and it's like waves below, quickening hearts beat the apples from the trees. That's kind of the poem, the small poem that I wrote for this is like, we're going to beat the apples from the trees with our quickening heart because the storm's coming. Love the lightning behind here to show that. It's about the tempest. All right, now here we are bathing. What did I call this? Bathing in serpent fire. Because this bathtub's full of snakes, okay? But they're not afraid. But look, so Lilith has her horns and a tattoo of a tree on her back, and Eve has a half-bitten apple on fire. Hopefully y'all can see that. So I've made her have like an apple core, but that was on fire tattoo. I mean, how cool is that? How cool are these tattoos? And how perfect for Lilith to have a barren tree. I just love that. And they're just reveling in this bathtub. They're bathing. They're bathing each other. Now here we have another card with stone tablets, but I love this one because they're having a night ritual, an Eden ritual. They've turned to stone, immortalized in the glade. Eden ritual. Okay, I love that one of these candles is like a feminine presenting body. Love that. But yeah, they're in a forest glade and they're doing Eden rituals together, but they've turned to stone. Again, this immortalized, immobilized couple, right? I love this one too. I love all of them. I can't keep saying that. Now with this one, they're like bronze busts, right? But I said, we sought refuge in the cellar, watched the storm bleed onto our bronze chests. It's like, this looks kind of like an asylum, but they found refuge in it, a boon from the storm, but it's bleeding onto their bronze chests, and it's like oxidizing them, right? Oh, so I love the poetic nature of this deck so much. Now here's the image, the iconic image that I made for the box and the book and everything else, okay? So we've got Lilith here. This is an iconic Lilith by John Collier, but I added some horns, okay, to her little temples there. And Eve, these actually, both of these images are by Collier, so that's why they look like the same. They probably are the same woman model, but I've got her holding an apple there. But yeah, They're there together. Don't they just look so good together? Every time I see these cards, I think, God, I want to know more about your story. I want this to be a book. All right, now I called this one As the Vulture Flies. Okay. Because it was, I will follow you down long roads as the vulture flies. If you know, like the saying, as the crow flies, that just means that I'll do it as quick as possible, right? That's like basically what that saying means. But as the vulture flies means that I might get distracted by carry-on and the macabre and the gothic. You know, I might get distracted, but we're going to get distracted by the beautiful gothic macabre things along the way. We're going to stop and make jewelry out of the roadkill and, I don't know, just sacred road trip type shit here. I love that there's a little vulture baby there. Again, we got the pomegranates and the serpent and the long road. Oh, isn't this so pretty? Chained behind generational lace, and they ate their fruits and left them as offerings. That's the title of this. This is deified milk here. Deified milks dripping on wings and quiet ruins. I love this milk here, this milk drop here. But I love how Lilith is like bejeweled here. She's got a necklace and she's got her demon wings on. And then Eve here is the many-breasted figure of like antiquity. I put her apple, but she's really milking. Like her milks really come forth. This is deity milk. This is life bloods, life liquids here. Oh. So Lilith is eating an apple, right? And she's looking at the serpent. And Eve has got this like bejeweled crotch. Okay, I've put like a ruby there in her crotch area. But her pose makes you think that she's scared, right? And so I called this one Don't Fear the Serpent. Love this like Persian rug here too. Like they're lounging again. Don't veil yourself from what will be a maddening experience. How beautiful do these figures look? Like with this, again, we're in like this hotel. I put this lamp and these curtains here. But trying to make it to where they look like they're in bed together worked out much better than I thought. I love how she's holding a chrysanthemum. All right, now we're in a dark castle, okay? So in a dim astral castle, we become the altars. That's what this card is. They're in a dark castle. This looks better, Addams Family castle, manor house, you know? And they're on the astral together, but they've become the altars. They've become these statues that someone's laid out on an altar, which reminds me of sacred space. Okay, let me back to this. Love these images, these two. I like having some of them upside down, you know, kind of like, I mean, like a Spider-Man kiss or something like that. Like they're coming from two different places, and sometimes they meet up this way. And I called this one Under Waxing Moons Above Waning Cities, because there's these like ruins in the background. Again, horns and snakes. And of course the waning moon. All right, now this one's my art card. This is my art card. This one is like they've come to an art exhibit, okay? And the art exhibit itself was called Paradise. So there's all these images of people doing art that is based on the Garden of Eden, right? And they're literally going through this art exhibit laughing and having a fantastic time, reminiscing, possibly telling some bad jokes at, you know, other people's in the garden's expense. saying what looks right, what looks made up, what's not real, like really having deep, meaningful conversations about the art. And I love that this looks like they're just sitting there looking at these images on the wall of this art exhibit called Paradise. All right, this is the Tunnels of Time. Both of them are covered up with leaves in this one. All the clocks gloomed. We traveled the future way. They're going into the future. Oh, this is my defense card. Defend along the serpent's back. This is a defense card. We're defending it. We're defending what? Whatever you want. We'll be together. We'll defend it together. All right, this one is another nighttime ritual. Captured by the moon, lured to nights. We're lured right to the night. I love that Lilith is looking up at Eve, and Eve is captivated by the moon, right? Like looking over at the moon. And we're like, there's this table here with all these candles, like this. I can just imagine like this stone table, and Lilith's got all the candles, and then she was like, where the hell did Eve go? And then she looks up, and Eve's climbed up onto this pillar to get a better glimpse of the moon, and Lilith just sighs a happy smile and gives her a few minutes before calling her down to complete the ritual. I can just imagine all this playing out. They're warming by someone else's bonfire. Warmed at bonfires lit for something other. They're keeping themselves warm around this bonfire that wasn't lit, but it was lit for something other. Quite literally something that they don't even know, but they're going to warm themselves upon it. I love that this one's in, Eve's in Lilith's lap here. Oh, we heard the heavenly bells toll that called us home, and we took to heights. We took to heights and heard the bells ringing us home. I love that these are headless, but they've each got a serpent on their head. And the dove and the moon phases, this sunset, this old ancient, probably Andalusian church or something. Oh, love it. Now look at that. This is a really cool image of an atrium. Again, probably another cathedral, possibly even a train station of some kind. But it's an atrium, and we've got this snake skin here, but this crescent moon sky. And literally I called this the atriums opened for us. So it's about glass ceilings, it's about roofs, it's about reaching places that you thought that you couldn't. And again, they're going to do it together. Look at this. Look at this. Another long road. I love the candles here. But I like this rotten apple. I like that this apple's rotten. Okay? And that both of the figures are kind of walking up the steps towards it. And it's, I call this one Search for Me in Rotten Visions. Search for me in the rotten visions. And some of these feel like laments, like conversational, like what they would say to each other. Which always feels, they kind of feel special, you know? Okay, they've crashed a party at this one. When you added all these like tiny people back here to look like they're partying, that was... But then I got these two figures holding apples that have been like half peeled, so some of the peeling is hanging off the apple, right? But they've peeled it themselves, because I remember like one of the first spells I did as like a 5 or a 6-year-old was peel an apple and use the peeling to like spell out someone's initial or whatever, right? Like I'm sure some of us know what I'm talking about. But that's what they're doing. They're like throwing the apple peels through into the party, right? And they've crashed the party and drank the spiked apple cider. It's the blood moon. The blood moon emotions. That's what this one's called. Blood moon emotions. It's another industrialized version. Dripped onto industrialized floors. I love how look, the snakes are coming out from under their statue, but they're dripping their fruit juice onto the floors. One's actually, in this one, Lilith's got an apple and Eve has a pomegranate. I love her red lips. I love her red lips. And you have another circus here. Infiltrate the Heartbeats Festival. Look how devotional she looks to this figure here with the horns. She's doing her little act, right? But the way she's holding on to her, like, I don't want to tie you down. I just want to be near you, kind of a, you know, hand gesture. You know how like when you want to hug, you put your hand out, right? You just put your hand out, and someone like comes into your embrace under the circus tent. Treasures housed in first steps. Yes. Ooh, now look at this one. One of the figures in this is a painting, and the other one is a statue. Now the statue has come in through this open window here, and it has seen the other figure, like their portrait was being painted. And I think, what did I call this one? I cried when I saw your painted portrait. And there's like tears of pomegranate juice. When she came in. I love that she came in through the window. I love that. Your armor was made of slithering bones, and I peeled the plump shields. Another defense-like card. Love how this, like, the back of the shield looks like it's made out of snake bones. Or some kind of snake bone. Slithering bones. Frolicking, dancing, we watched the world's ceilings turn. Like that behind them is like a floor, right? Which is weird, but the bottom is the floor, but then the top is like the ceiling. And they're spinning, and who knows if it's the floor or the ceiling, but we're just going to keep twirling and dancing through it. Ooh, this one's good. This one turned out good. I've got the lapis there, but the way that I wanted this to look is that Lilith is the head and Eve is the body, or vice versa. And then they've made these roots with the snake coming out, just like the tree, but they've disconnected to resurrect. So that's what I call this. Disconnect to resurrect. There's another urban, there's an urban setting here with flowers. Maybe they're at a hotel somewhere, but the suites, like a hotel suite, I think I call this something like suites we were throned upon. We were throned upon the suites of the city. That pose there. Romance chants to fruits alchemy. This one's funny, okay? We set off the sprinklers with our passions. And it's like they set off their sprinkler, but right, like there's water here. But I love how this figure is looking at this one, and this one's undressing. So that one's cheeky, quite literally. But how perfect did these positions look? I mean, it looks like these statues are together like this. But they set off the sprinklers with their passions. We have fallen and engorged on ripe wishes. Wishes. We've engorged on ripe wishes. And then ancient relics here. Spoke prehistoric languages. Origins. Like they are the origins. They are the origins. I love that the Venus of Willendorf here is whichever one you choose. It could be Eve or Lilith. One of the other. Doesn't matter. I know I have my favorite about which one's which, but I don't know. It feels kind of secret now. That I'm saying it out loud. Alright, here's another one where they're in this like stairwell or whatever, and Lilith is tickling Eve's leg, right? And Eve's trying to juggle these pomegranates, and it's tickled scarlet, laughed with eyes in heart. Oh, the playful nature to this. You know, can you just imagine them, like, Lilith being one of these obnoxious, like, I'm just going to tickle you no matter what you're doing. And Eve's trying to practice juggling or something like that. And she's laughing, but she's getting annoyed at the same time. And it just feels so real. You know, it just feels so real. Here we have the garden dominion called us by name. We have Lilith trying to cultivate a garden, a rose garden here. This little this moth on Eve. We're trying to make the roses blossom in this very futuristic, like the roses are trying to grow in this very futuristic, again, industrialized and minimalistic setting. But Lilith's determined she's going to grow her red roses. Very Queen of Hearts. Now, this one's very simple, but this one is about paying your debt. And so I call this one, We Paid Our Debts. We have paid our debts. Those coins on the eyes, kind of a thing. Eject the petals from ravage extinctions. Use half apple halves here from both of them. Remembered moments in each other's arms. I think the bat plays nicely here with the pomegranate seeds falling in through the window. They're embracing. It feels like they're trying to grab onto each other in this like chaotic time, you know, but they're remembering a moment and they're holding each other through remembering it, you know. Exiled, but each other's idols. This one's nice because this one's like actually a Mother Mary idol, right? And I wanted to immortalize the fact that they are each other's idols. They were exiled, yes, but they are each other's idols. They find the magic and divinity in each other. And that's a beautiful thing. Captivated by your feral facade. Lilith here has got the marble world in her hand, but she's looking at Eve. She's looking at Eve twirl and dance and be her feral self. And it's kind of like Eve doesn't know she's getting watched. And Lilith is just captivated by her. All right, now we're in the garment district. Okay, so they are in the garments, in the garment district, and they're not clothed. So this one's about being in the garment district naked. Like their juxtapositions all on their own. They're in opposition, and I love that. So that's what this card is. It's about being in opposition. harbingers of defying traffics. Harbingers of defying traffics. Oh, look at these figures. Crying crystal tears. There's this open door here, right? Like they have to leave each other, or maybe they haven't seen each other yet, or something's happening. They've cried seeds. They've cried apple seeds to fates entwined. So their fates are intertwined, and their fates are entwined. They're together. You know, it's like no matter what happens, we'll find each other. But right now, they're not together. But they know their destiny. You know, they know that their destiny is to find each other. Ooh, I love this. This is like a kitchen ritual. A pot like outside, right? Like they're brewing something outside, and they're brewing the cure. And there's this like pan, like a pan on I guess on an open fire or whatever. And then there's this dead snake in it, like a snake skin. And one of them's laying here, and the other one is pouring the cure onto their body. And so this one is about brewing the cure, curing each other and finding healing in the trauma that they've endured. Bleeding heart spell. That's what's going on here. Bleeding heart spell. Cast the drops into open eyes. Bleeding heart spell. And then last but not least is heads on fire for your trials of freedom. This is where they're going to blast it all. All the oppression, all the hate, all the demonized, or the demonizations, all the submissions that were, I guess you could call, unconsented. They're going to set it all on fire and release themselves and find their own freedom. That's why there's this like fence back here. I'm setting them free. Set yourself free. Get out of the fence. You've been inside the fence, get out. Set it on fire. And this one is about them finding that freedom. Finding the secret garden key, so to speak. She's going to cast that apple into that fire. That is Lilith's head, you know. Cast into the fire and release themselves from their burdens. All right. Oh my goodness, you guys. That was a long, long talk. I've talked for a long time, but I love this deck. I do. I mean, it has a special place in my heart. Special, special, special. So, I hope that if it feels special to you, if you work with Lilith, if you work with Eve, if you work with some kind of semblance of the creation story, if you work with the divine feminine in these ways, in this very, for freedom, for autonomy, for love, for justice, I think this would be a very good ritual art deck. Y'all let me know how y'all thought, how you thought about this. What do you thought about this? What do you thought about this ritual deck? I was super excited for a little story time and deck reveal. All right. Hope to hear from you down below. Much love, people.